Let's take a look at the Fuso start grid for the final time here at Barbagallo. Garth Tander and Rick Kelly, as they've been doing all weekend, will start side by side. Positions 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Well, Mark Skaife has normally had Craig Lowndes alongside him, but this time he's going to have to fight off a different Ford in Stephen Johnson. Will Davison and Mark Winterbottom share the next row of the grid in Ps 5 and 6. And there is Greg Murphy. That's where we find Lowndes back in 8th.
He'll be pretty competitive in this one too, once they get the car to behave in the normal manner, fixing that front anti-roll bar problem. So I fully expect that Lowndes will be a threat. Great recovery, Todd Kelly. That was just an awesome drive. Didn't really get much of an advantage out of that late safety car either. He had to do most of it in the first 7/8 of the race. Yeah, so that was a great recovery.
He really did work hard. I just saw him before he jumped in the car there. He was stretching, making sure that he was okay for it. And these guys, they didn't get a lot of time in between races 2 and 3. Enough time to have a bit of a think, a talk to their engineers, and a little bit of lunch as well. Paul Dumbrell and Max Wilson, 17 and 18.
Incidentally, on the subject of Max Wilson, he was involved in that incident yesterday with John Bow down at turn 7. He took the equivalent of a pit lane drive-through penalty, which is 23 seconds here, and that affected his starting position for race number 2. But the team have appealed it. That appeal will be held in Melbourne the week after next, and so we'll follow the progress of that one for you.
Jamie Whincup had a wretched race too, a drive-through penalty and then an off as well, so he finds himself right down at the back of the pack with these guys, Canto and Perkins, and the two Team BOC Falcons of Bradley and Andrew Jones from positions 27 and 28. The last row on the grid belongs to James Courtney and Steve Owen. So can James do a Todd Kelly and fight his way through the field? If you just joined us this weekend, there are only 30 cars on the grid because Jason Bright didn't make it to the start after a big accident on Friday. Garth Tander collected pole position. He was also quickest in practice, by the way, and he has won both races 1 and 2.
Question mark on tyre usage here. Remember, they are allocated 12 tyres, 3 tyre sets for the entire weekend, including qualifying in the 3 races. And those 3 races are divided into 2 parts. So how you manage your 12 tyres is very important. Who's got the firepower now in the last one? 2 segments in this race. The compulsory pit stop window opens on lap 17. And confirming again, 50 laps the journey, 120 Ks, 30 starters, minus Jason Bright, as Matthew just detailed. The Super Cheap Auto race stats, 75% of the race for declaration purposes. If it was red flag, 38 laps becomes an official race and all the points allocated. And there's that pit window, and they'll only do 2 tyres. Most people have been doing rears. I haven't seen anybody do left-hand side of the car. Rear tyres do get punished here. This is Max Wilson, spoke about him a moment ago.
And the WPS in-car camera will be travelling with the WOW Racing Ford of Max Wilson.
It is hot, hot, hot at Barbagallo. 31 degrees the ambient temperature at the moment, 42 on the track, and that's forced some of the drivers to go back to their cool suits for today's 3rd race. In fact, Will Davison just had his on. Bit of drama just on the start line a moment ago when it sprung a leak, and he very quickly had to jump out, get it off and get a fresh one on.
We saw the Super Cheap Auto in-car camera of Paul Dumbrell. Will also be on board with our defending series champion, with a big pond camera inside the car of Rick Kelly. We'll take you alongside Jamie Whincup as well in the Team Vodafone 888 Falcon. So we'll have every angle covered here, and also a camera, and a couple of cameras indeed, watching this man, Mark Skaife, who came here after all sorts of trouble off the track, but now he finds himself 7th on the championship ladder after 2 third placings.
See Mark rocking the car backwards and forwards, accelerating, making sure he's got tyre grip in the rears, and then applying the brakes and making the temperature generated by the front brakes radiate through the rim into the carcass of the tyre and ultimately onto the tread face. Those cool suits that Mark was talking about, the fireproof vests that the drivers wear, in some cases have got little capillaries through them, and you connect up ice water, basically pump it through an esky. Sometimes they use dry ice for the purpose, and it makes a huge difference in the temperature inside the car and the comfort levels for the driver, which are often between about 15 to 20 degrees above the ambient temperature of the day, which today's a warm one in the realm of 30-odd degrees. Ludo Lacroix in the foreground, Campbell Little to the right. Engineers for their respective drivers, Jamie Whincup and Craig Lowndes, and it was Roland Dane, team owner of 888, in the middle.
There's James Courtney, man who showed us just how much of a star in the waiting we've got at Adelaide. He's fought and fought and fought here at Barbagallo. A couple of smiles in pit lane.
Last car, ready for a start.
A few nerves starting to build. We're all locked in and ready to fire for race 3 of the Big Pond 400. Tander again. Tander looks good again. And he will take them to turn 1 again. And look at Scape. Scape goes on the dirt on the inside of the track and holds on to position 3 just.
I think somebody flinched on the line. So we'll see whether the race director responds. There's a judge of fact down there watching that. People sliding all over the place on cold tyres.
Well, that's actually pushed Scape back to 4th position. Stephen Johnson, you'll find, has snuck up in front of him. Here it is, on board with Mark Scape. Down to turn 6 for the first time. He'll have a look on the inside of Johnson, who closes the door. And Tander sails off over the top of the hill. There's Kelly, there's Johnson. Will Davison in there. Maximum speed, 250 kilometres. Down the back straight. Todd Kelly declares his intentions early over the back of Greg Murphy.
Head down.
And Stephen Richards finds himself in a sandwich with Max Wilson. Big bump off the curb for Jason Richards.
Scape applying pressure, turn 1, recovering a little from that tardy start where Stephen Johnson got the edge on him into 1. Nearly 0.6 of a second is the margin between Tander and Kelly. Garth Tander's been able to do a good job in all 3 races getting the car off the line. Jason Richards, that was in the Tasman Motorsport entry, crossed up through turn 4 just ahead of Stephen Richards there on cold tyres. The car sliding quite a lot.
That's midfield that you were looking at with Max Wilson in the WOW Racing car number 8. On board again we go with Mark Scafe, who wants that position back from Junior Johnson.
He's got a good exit off turn 6. He'll have a look down the inside here.
And he gets it back within the space of 2 laps.
And he tries to hold it tight on the exit, but Stephen's able to crisscross and grabs him again. Mark's got to be a little bit careful that Will Davison doesn't end up being able to sneak by as well. He's right under the right rear of Scafe. He'll be 1 out and 1 wide here in the dirty stuff in a moment, Scafe, but he hangs on. Mark had a big lunge under brakes into 7. It made him shallow. He tried to cover it. He tried to make a tighter turn radius and sneak out the other side slower, knowing that you can just fumble the other guy. But he couldn't quite get the car turned enough. Here we go again, turn 6, having a look here.
And that's what Barbagallo is like. He can get it and lose it in a flash. Johnson has made the most of this. Garth Tander posts a 58.2.
He's on him again. Try it again.
Deep into turn 7.
You can see Mark trying to hold the tighter exit. This time he's going to hang on. A couple of millimetres just makes the difference there. So great bit of cat and mouse between those 2.
He out-crisscrossed him that time. Tander, Kelly, Scafe, Johnson. That's your top 4. Position 5, Will Davison. Mark Winterbottom, Craig Lowndes, Todd Kelly. Here's the Zinger replay of the start. Keep your eyes to the left of your screen and watch Mark Scafe. He'll end up on the grass there. Rick Kelly came across. Johnson went straight up behind Rick Kelly, and Scafe ends up in 4th position. And look at the battle going on between Will Davison and Mark Winterbottom. This is on board with car number 2, Mark Scafe.
Scafe here as he goes to the right. He's got the right wheels on the grass. He's got Stephen Johnson on the left. A bit fortunate there wasn't contact down there in a big way. Often pretty fraught into the first corner. Fastest lap of the race so far is Garth Tander. Look at this one. And it's Will Davison and Mark Winterbottom disputing a position into turn 1. 0.9 of a second, nearly 1 second now separates Tander from Rick Kelly. Interest focused here on this little battle. 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. Lowndes is in there as well.
Right up on 2 wheels. It's awesome stuff.
Todd Kelly's moved to 8th. Winterbottom's carrying good speed on the turn in in the Ford Performance Racing number 5 entry. Skate just easing away slightly now from Stephen Johnson, who's, if anything, fallen slightly into the clutches of his teammate, Will Davison. This is the braking area of the final corner. James Courtney's reporting a misfire in the Geraldwyn forward. He's still up the back of the field at the moment, trying to make progress from starting at the very rear. He's currently position 24. There he is.
Pressure on, mate. There's nothing we can do about it. You'll be right.
It looks as though another one bites the dust for James Courtney.
Got Jamie Whincup behind him there as well. Remember, pretty difficult race for Jamie in the last one with electrical problems that confused the operation of the pit lane speed limiter in his car and then engaged itself on the track. He actually ran a little wide there at turn 6 behind Courtney, lost a bit of ground and lost the spot, in fact, to Andrew Jones, who just snuck up the inside. There's Andrew, car 12. A very graphic idea of just how close it is and just how aggressive it can be. That was millimetres apart, and Jamie was not going to back out of that one. He had some space up the inside. He kept forcing the issue until he got the track position. Did it cleanly, though.
Just how little space they need to have a look. As we have a look out the back of the team Vodafone.
Gee, Jamie's battling there. Big understeer through turn 5. Andrew will have him down here. Got him again. Jamie couldn't grab the throttle at all through turn 5. It was a slow exit. So those two are going to continue with this arm wrestle as Todd Kelly and Craig Lowndes dispute position. Now, you had to go back to yesterday's race when those two were battling. So Todd's had to come back from nowhere for this. Look at this. Lowndes on the inside of turn 1. Out brakes. Bit of dirty road there and gets the job done. Murphy tries to buy in.
That was for 7th spot.
Okay.
And at the moment, it's advantage Lowndes on that one.
Craig loves the curbs. Launches the car up and over the turn 3 curbing, flies it into their 2 wheels, motocrosses the thing across the curbs. He does it here at 5 a bit from time to time too.
Just spoken to Paul Forgy at Stone Brothers Racing. He's basically said the misfire that they're talking about is only in 4th gear, so it's not too bad at this stage. He's still got pretty good straight line speed, so they've basically told him to push on.
Talk about straight line speed. That's the difference, as you saw Garth Tander come down. Now we go back again for another round of fisticuffs between Todd Kelly and Craig Lowndes.
I think Murph actually gave Lowndes a little bit of a touch up there. I'm not 100% sure, but that was very close down into the final corner.
There's Lee Holdsworth in the picture as well, and so too is Paul Radicic and Stephen Richards, Paul Dumbrell in the super cheap auto
nice
car.
And smooth. We've got to have a think about turn 6. That's where we seem to be struggling.
He's trundling along pit lane.
He's taking it out the back.
Pretty handy view out the back here. This is where the teams actually are all based with their garages. So in between races, they have to get the cars out of pit lane, bring them all the way down here. And that is why they've got, we saw Greg Murphy with the horn on there, because he's got to actually let people know that he's coming. And unfortunately, Paul, the door's closed. But thanks for the ride anyway. Garth Tander and Rick Kelly back on the track on your Xbox 360 leaderboard. It is 1-2 to the Toll HSV dealer team. Yet again, Mark Scaife in 3rd position. Stephen Johnson is in 4th. Will Davison in 5th. Mark Winterbottom there in 6th. And Lee Holdsworth holds down a top 10 position. This is the Big Pond 400. We mentioned that the start was crucial, not only for Garth Tander, but more so for those guys who wanted to throw down a bit of a challenge for him this weekend, and that's what's been happening. Garth has been getting them off the line and holding the lead. if not increasing it.
10 laps complete, mate. Great consistency, doing an awesome job. Counter is correct.
Tander's got a good margin, 1.6 seconds. Incidentally, Jamie Whincup's not making a lot of progress at all in the second of the Vodafone cars. He's still in a battle with Steve Owen. Courtney's made a little bit of space. He's up to 19th. But your observation about Tander's pace in the early laps, good one, Matthew. He's just got that extra 10th or 2 in each of the sectors at the moment that's keeping this fresh air gap between both of them. They are coaching Lowndes on the radio a little bit at the moment down at turn 6. He's in position 8. He tends to turn in very early down there. He carries more speed on the way in than most, but he loses a little bit of it in the middle and on the way out, and he's getting attacked on the exit, and they're seeing it in the data, and they're just trying to help him with that at the moment.
Go for a ride here if we can with Rick Kelly.
Patience, work on the middle sector.
That's the word from Eric Pender, who constantly brings up patience. Patience for Rick Kelly. Big Pond in-car camera. It's a great view of his office for the weekends. Takes it around turn 6. And now works it back through the gears.
Plus 2.8 just go. 2.8 just go.
That's the gap between second and third they're talking about.
Matt Nilsson has asked Garth Tander whether he wants to vary the tyre pressures for the incoming tyre set. And Tander's reply was so far so good, so he doesn't want any change to the cold starting pressures for those tyres that they'll put on somewhere on or after lap 17.
It's a great little part of the circuit, that, isn't it? Up around 2, 3 and 4.
Yeah, it is a great bit of road. There's quite a lot of enjoyable pieces of road around this racetrack, especially when the cars are gripped up, when the tyres are new. Very enjoyable. The S's are good fun. You can fly the car over the curbs. This corner down here, turn 6, is a good one. Very enjoyable under brakes into turn 7 because you can really get into the brake pedal open wheeler style down there.
But you can, hang on, you said you can fly the car over the curbs. Are you meant to fly?
No, the engineers hate it, but drivers quite enjoy it.
There's a
Depends whether it makes a lap time. If it makes lap time, everybody enjoys it.
And that's the gap between Garth Tander and Rick Kelly, which is now 2 seconds.
Car number 33 has been given a bad sportsmanship flag for blocking.
The West is a wonderful place for Garth Tander. The hometown boy is enjoying every moment of this weekend, and he continues to build on his lead over his teammate in the Big Pond 400. We're on lap 14 of 50, so there is still a long way to go, but the gap now is 2 seconds at least. That's what it looks like. Down to turn 7, so Tander will turn in. Rick Kelly behind him. Mark Scaife there in 3rd position. 4th is Stephen Johnson and Will Davison 5th. And there's Mark Winterbottom and Todd Kelly.
Well, Paul Dumbrell had a problem with low oil pressure, and what the team's decided is to whip that car straight back into the garage and avoid blowing an engine and spilling oil all over the track. So Super Cheap Auto putting the car in the garage.
Just spoken to the chief engineer of Jamie Whincup, who doesn't seem to be making much headway into this final race of the day. Frenchman Ludo Lacroix says, we've just changed the setup on the car. I asked him what we've changed. He said, we're just trying something different, with a big smile on his face.
Incidentally, there's been a bad sportsmanship flag for Lee Holdsworth in car number 33 for excessive blocking, so they'll watch that one. He's got Stephen Richards behind him at the moment. Check this out, as Lowndes on the Zinger replay, I said before they like to motocross these things. Craig in particular loves to fly the car over that curb. He's been doing it for years. It's not a new trick for him. He loves it.
You see here some contact between Paul Radisich and Stephen Richards, and Stephen Richards has lost the side mirror on the left there, went flying off onto the inside of the circuit. So he's carrying one arm at the moment in car number 6.
Compulsory to use both side mirrors on the cars this year. Typically in years gone by, some teams preferred not to use the left-hand mirror just for aerodynamic reasons, but clearly it didn't help the driver's rearward vision, which is bad enough at the best of times in these cars with the seats as they are, and with the rear wings and the roll cage assembly, it's very difficult to see rearward. So V8 Supercar has demanded that everybody fit the standard mirrors on the cars.
Max Wilson's in position 14, which means he's still inside the top 15 who get the points. Now he's made up 4 positions from the start.
Compulsory pit stop window opens very shortly. Nearly 2.5 second margin now for Garth Tander over Rick Kelly. Wilson sandwiched between Ingle and Jason Richards. Bitterly disappointed in the team to have that penalty with the issue between himself and John Bowe in yesterday's race. And as I said before at the start of the race, they're going to dispute that. They've taken it to appeal, and that'll be heard in Melbourne in the not too distant future. Looking over Max's shoulder, see the shift lights illuminating in front of him. 4th gear on the approach, back to 3rd. Very busy around this track. You can see his foot down there. See the amount of fiddling he has to do to get the car, the nose of the car online. Short shift to 4th gear. Chasing, and whoever it was in front of him then was well crossed up. It was Russell Ingle. Big slide at turn 5. Back to 3rd gear for turn 6. Really having to forcefully tip that car in. If you compare that wheel work with one of the lead drivers, like for example Rick Kelly, you'll see far less wheel input with one of the quicker cars at the moment. So still some issues to weed out in the WPS car, and his teammate Jason Barbagallo pointing the wrong direction. This is on the exit of turn 6, I think. Yes.
It takes a shiny-looking V8 supercar and turns it into a dust-filled warrior, doesn't it? Take a look on the Zinger replay. There's definite contact between Dean Canto and Jason Barbagallo.
There's going to be a huge amount of dirt there. Drivers are currently being warned. So the pit lane will open shortly. Here's another Zinger replay. Just have a look at the amount of rubbish on the road here. It's amazing. A bit of bodywork flying off there on the exit of turn 5. So the track pretty grubby at the moment. Everybody's going to have to manage that carefully. That's a widget.
Who knows? Back to the racing we go. And pulling off into pit lane is car 22. Todd Kelly dives in first. K's an hour. In we go for rears.
Go.
You could see Stephen Richards coming up pit lane there, and they had to shout and shout and shout to make sure that Todd Kelly didn't jump the gun.
Wait, next.
The wheel guns, meanwhile, have been...
That hurt Todd Kelly, that stop, having to wait for Richo. Wind cups in. Roll centre adjustment. Huge roll centre adjustment.
Hold. Okay, wait, guys. Watch your pit.
Massive roll centre adjustment.
How many turns equals?
Yes, plenty.
They're going frantic like that. You can see that they've made a big one for Jamie Whincup, who went in there in the mid-20s.
Answering that question depends on each individual team and how they've configured their car, Matthew, so there's no standard answer to that. Everyone's got their own thread count.
Go. Good line, good job.
Drive-through penalty, car 34, Dean Canto for the infringement with Jason Barbagallo, and car number 18, Will Davison, bad sportsmanship flag for blocking.
There's a bit of damage there. You can see all side by side for Russell Ingle, who just has to wait for Jason Richards.
Rick Kelly not thrilled about the engine performance.
Well, it would be the only split for the Toll HSV dealer team at the moment. Here's Barbagallo. The professionalism in pit lane is astounding. In this category, it's just simply brilliant to watch him at work.
Okay, Will, you might want to bring your rear bar up with those new cold tyres.
Team Sirame entry of Fabian Coulthard.
Put your rear bar full bar.
They sweep up behind them in pit lane, and here comes John Bow. It's actually Alan Gurr in the Irwin Tools.
Shane Price went into turn one then with the rear brakes well locked, had a big slide. Here drivers being encouraged to bring their rear anti-roll bars to a full stiff position to get some roll stiffness into the rear of the car, transferring more load to the front of the car, encouraging the car to turn better. Lowndes.
There's our race leader, Garth Tander.
Okay, where you going to the lane, please? Just your bars, mate, just your bars.
Campbell Little. Prior to that, the voice was Kevin May, car controller and engineer for this man, and he's dropped that spot to Todd Kelly on the exit.
All weekend, Craig Lowndes has found himself battling HRT cars. Firstly, Mark Scaife, now Todd Kelly. And here comes Rick Kelly. Big Pond in-car camera takes you inside pit lane.
Craig Lowndes just into the pits. Of course, the boys know no changes to his car. Whincup, as you see, Neil, a massive roll centre changement. Of course, what that did was a 7-second stop to Whincup. Lowndes came in, just retires. The difference in stop, 3 seconds.
Go, 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 go.
Rob Crawford there. Remember, he was very harsh on himself in Adelaide for releasing Garth Tander, and it's just millimetres the difference between being hero and zero in this business. And unfortunately, in Adelaide, it released Garth into the path of Todd Kelly. It is a very difficult job trying to guess when to release your driver and how quickly they can get the car rolling again and slot into the traffic. Get it wrong, you cop a penalty.
Can they stop him? That's the question. Can they stop Garth Tander? The Big Pond 400 of Barbagallo on 7.
Readjust bars if you need.
It's Kemba Conville and Tander as the shuffle continues in pit lane. And James Courtney comes in. McConville will go in as well.
Courtney was as high as second then in the uncorrected order.
Feel the car drop, go. Go, 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 go.
It's the voice of Jeff Gretsch in the background for the Super Cheap Auto team, and Courtney's service job was good.
One on the exit there, should be right now, mate, still clear.
Very difficult when you're back in the field, Matthew. Track position is king. When you give your competitors in this business a 200 or 300 metre head start, starting at the final corner effectively, near impossible to make much ground in one race.
Average speed around here, 160 kilometres an hour. Top speed, 252. Right back down towards the 80s and 90s at turn 1. You're riding with Jamie Whincup. With the order of appearance is 25th. Mark Scaife has just posted the fastest lap of the day.
He also lost nearly 2 seconds in his pit stop relative to those around him, so it wasn't a great stop either because of the stop itself or perhaps the traffic around him when he came in or out, but either way, it wasn't good. So he needs that lap speed at the moment. He's 4.4 seconds behind Rick Kelly.
The West Australian has a lot of space to play with at the moment, but I can tell you that Mark Scaife, in position 3, has just posted the fastest time of the day, a 57.87. There's still a big gap between Garth Tander and Scaife back to 3rd.
Terrific job by Stephen Johnson, now currently sitting in 4th position, but really under attack from the moment at Mark Winterbottom, right on the backside and looking to challenge. But one of the gains that DJR have made since sharing suspension componentry with 888 is tyre life. So he's kind of defending in the early parts of this new tyre cycle, but they believe this car will get better or not deteriorate as much as the cars around them, and they'll be able to fight on nice and strong. But good for DJR fans. It's great to see that Australia's oldest V8 supercar team is back on track.
Mark Scaife lost a couple of seconds in his pit stop, though he's lapping quickly at the moment. He needs to, because that was a bit costly for some reason. Just a little over 2 seconds. Incidentally, Stephen Richards has just done the fastest split to the end of the first sector in the Castrol Ford Performance Racing entry. He's currently 9th.
Fair bit of junk fell out of Dean Canto's car there.
A lot of brake dust generated here because of the high brake loads, particularly into turn 6, well, 1, 6 and 7 really. You're well into the brake pedal here. Big temperatures the boys have talked about before. Canto exits the lane right into the middle of this little stoush.
Jim Beam Racing Falcon of Stephen Johnson, who finished 9th in the season of 2006. By the end of Adelaide, he was 6th, and he's pushed it up to 5th at the moment, without taking into account the points that he could bank here in the final race. And there's Mark Winterbottom in the Orcon Ford Credit FPR Falcon. Qualified in 15th here, turned it into 10th, then into 6th. And right now he's in position 5. Now any weekend you can come and be on an upward curve is a good weekend.
Scaife's done the fastest split to the end of the second sector of 44.33. So he may further improve his fastest race lap. Yeah, he has 57.6. So he's on a charge. The car's good at the moment. The tyre condition must be good and the car balance is good.
Todd Kelly and Canto.
And Todd's immediately on the radio saying, is this car for position?
For position. This car is not for position.
Matt Crawford responds. It's important for the drivers to always have a good situational awareness and know what's going on around them, who to attack and who not to attack.
As you saw, Kelly is 7th. In front of him, Canto not in position, so he wants to have a crack at Will Davis and Todd Kelly. It was a great drive in race 2 when he pushed his way all the way through. Had to keep working and keep working. In race 1, we had a safety car at the end. Race 2, we had a safety car towards the end. And right now, big trouble for James Courtney.
Yeah, you see, he said something broke. I just heard him button onto the radio and say, I got a problem with the car, something broke. So he's perched in a very awkward spot. He's just on the approach to turn 4 on the inside of the road here at the sweeper. The place is covered in dirt and everyone's well wide. And we've gone full course yellow because that car's in a massively dangerous position.
Jimmy Stone.
And in fact, Jim Courtney behind him, James's dad, on the right. So he's okay. He's talking on the radio, but a lot of damage, and you can see the amount of rubbish all over the road. Not a happy weekend for the Geraldwen Stone Brothers Racing entry.
And that means the WPS Chrysler safety car will come back out as the Stone Brothers racing team look on and try and figure out what went wrong. This Singer replay will give us an indication. You'll see a tyre barrier and a wall there. Bang, that's big impact.
That was some sort of collapse in the front left-hand corner of the car. Watch this again, watch the front left. Look at that, the car's already down on its haunches. Something's let go and pitches him into the wall heavily.
You can see...
Right then is when it's good to have the hands device on.
Boys, I've just spoken to Ross Stone. Of course, you heard Neil over the radio that James said something has broken. Ross thinks that something in the rear has given way, something in the rear of the car. Paul Forkey and the boys looking at the data, telemetry, trying to talk to James. As soon as I find out more, I'll get back to you.
Well, when they see that replay, I think they'll know for sure. And it's great to see James Courtney up and about. I mean, these cars are very, very safe and very well designed, but that impact was heavy. While we were watching that Zinger replay, Neil, I kept my eyes on James Courtney's helmet, and the impact was very, very heavy indeed. The WPS Chrysler safety car is in control. You can see the Xbox 360 leaderboard. The pit shuffle has been done, effectively won by Garth Tander, who's back out on the road. James Courtney has the helmet off. He'll start the long walk back to pit lane. The Big Pond 400 of Barbagallo. You're watching the championship on 7. And the course doctor there just making sure that James is okay, and obviously he's fairly rattled by that impact.
He's not impressed either. You know, he's had one of those weekends where things have gone wrong, and he's had brake dramas of some description and now what looks to be a suspension failure. So his sense of humour has been tested. You can tell by his body language that he's a bit unimpressed by the situation, and your observation about how far his head extended when he hit the wall was very accurate. It's pretty spooky. That's the beauty of that system that the drivers are all now wearing. That car's not going to be easy to move, boys. No. You can grunt away there all you like.
I think we'll be calling in the Super Duper tow truck with the fancy rear wing.
The question mark here is, did the tyre go down before or after it hit the wall?
Well, you could see, I mean, it was pretty graphic on the replay, wasn't it? That the front left dropped heavily.
Yeah, I think it was a suspension issue of some description, but you're only ever guessing in a commentary box. But that was a big whack, and that car's already had one big whack this weekend.
What speed are we pushing around there?
You would be approaching that corner at about 180 odd kilometres an hour.
Ooh. It's sticking right out halfway across the track, hence the safety car. So not only was there big impact, and then he found himself right out here. Watch this, whooshka.
Well, the rear wing end plates on that car are pretty good because it managed to flick up and sit itself back down. Wow.
You know what, that's a scary thought, but a great escape in the end, because that car, whoever it was, I didn't get to see, was only inches away from forcing another fairly big impact on James Courtney's car while he was in it. So thankfully the rest of the field had the nerve to slow down, go around. Everything falls into place nicely, and they've got this Gelburn Motorsport Falcon moving now and off the track. But there's still a pretty hefty clean-up job to go on. So we got past the halfway mark of this race without incident. Our first two races were fairly incident-free until right towards the end, but this one's a bit of a different story, so Garth Tander will have to fire back. The WPS Chrysler safety car is leading the field around slowly at Barbagallo Raceway. And you can see there towards the bottom of your screen that the car has now been cleared. James Courtney's car has now been cleared off the track. It did carry a lot of dirt off.
Lights are still flashing on the safety car. They'll actually need to do a little bit of work there to get rid of the dirt.
Keep your eyes on the driver here on your Zinger replay. Oh. up towards 200 kilometres an hour, taking towards that corner. So the impact is so heavy. And then watch this. Another car comes along in a cloud of dust. Whoosh, rips the rear wing off, but bang, down she goes, right in position, right on cue. James Courtney is out of the car. The team course doctor has got hold of him and given him a ride back to pit lane. He's up and about, but the Gary Rogers Motorsport team is busy down there with car 34.
Well, Neil Crompton's just mentioned that we're only guessing up in the commentators' box. Ross Stone, after seeing that, you're still guessing as to what happened too.
Yeah, well, James thought something had gone wrong, possibly in the rear, but I've just seen the replay for the first time and looks a bit sus on the left front. Whether it was a puncture or something gone wrong there, I don't know.
Been such a hard weekend for the team.
Oh, you know, that's what V8 racing is. It's tough, you know, and it's peaks and troughs, and as long as you have a few peaks, you'll be right. But we'll regroup and we'll come back stronger than ever, I hope.
No sleep Friday night up until 9 o'clock in the morning, fixing cars and back into walls. It is a tough sport.
Yeah, you know, as long as you're racing these cars and in this field, you know, that's just part of racing, V8 racing, and we still enjoy it. And as I said, we'll regroup and come back stronger.
See you in New Zealand. I'll get my teeth in. Good luck.
Yeah, we really say our last time at Pukekohe, and we're pretty keen to do well there.
We're back racing now, and Max Wilson and Greg Murphy decide to have a bit of an argument down the main straight. And no problems there. That's the part of the course where Courtney went in, so there'll be dirt. They have swept it all away, but there's certainly still dirt on the track there somewhere. You've got to stay clean throughout there. Whoa, big slide around on one of the Gary Rogers cars. Mark Scaife and Rick Kelly. So the WPS safety car has brought us all closer together again, but you can see from that shot on board Scaife's car, the Tanda goes over the hill first in clean air again. Close. It's great, isn't it? Around the 7th turn. Back for another lap. 16 to go in the Big Pond 400. Scaife has had 2 third placings this weekend.
He's flicked the lights on too. He's got good pace in that car at the moment. Rick just looks a little bit vulnerable. Garth's got a 0.8 margin already after the restart, so he's disappearing.
A terrific comeback from Mark Winterbottom, guys. You know, in qualifying, he had that mess and went far down as 16th position. He's really making his amends now because he's climbing back up and really wanting to make an attack on Stephen Johnson. He just can't get out of turn 6. He's got superior brakes, but he is struggling. Look out for an attack soon.
Talk about an attack. Scaife's done it on Rick Kelly. Is the crisscross there? Scaife went really shallow.
And Mark went back to second gear there to punch it out the other side. He came out a little shallower on the exit of the corner, used second gear wisely, and could get back to the right of the road. That was a pretty hot move.
Great job. Good work.
So he's got in for second.
And Rick just doesn't look right at the moment. So whether we heard him say before he wasn't thrilled about some aspect of the engine, whether it's that or whether he's got some other problem with the balance of the chassis of the car, he can't afford to get too far back now or he'll have Stephen Johnson all over him.
The Jim Beam Falcon is smelling blood. And look at Mark Winterbottom. He's hovering over the back of Stephen Johnson. So Scaife now is clear.
He's been quick, remember. We saw a succession of fastest laps after he put his second tyre set on.
Okay, head down. Good clear laps, we'll be right.
1.4 seconds is the margin, Tanda Scaife. Then it's another 0.7 back to Rick Kelly. You heard Eric Pender then just suggesting to Rick, head down, let's be cool about it. Stephen Johnson next, then Winterbottom, Davison, Todd Kelly, Lowndes, Richards, that is Stephen. Lee Holdsworth is 10th, then Ingle, 11th. Murphy, Wilson, Richards, Bow, Morris, McConville, Coulthard, Price and Andrew Jones, who was the driver who clipped the back of the James Courtney car into turn 4.
You mentioned Max here in position 13. WPS in-car camera
And Rick is saying that the car, number one car, has no rear grip. So in that period where the safety car was out, his tyres have cooled out a little. Maybe they got some pickup on them, which is rubber debris or dirt debris on them. Maybe they've cooled a little, lost a pound or two, and it hasn't recovered terribly well, where Scaife and Tander are in business. There's a big queue forming behind Rick Kelly, and that means game on.
That is the key indicator. Look at them all lining up to have a crack at Rick Kelly. And midfield is also shuffling about as well. Your Xbox 360 leaderboard looks like this. Garth Tander now has Mark Scaife to worry about instead of his teammate Rick Kelly, who's in third and under enormous pressure from Stephen Johnson. Fifth belongs to Mark Winterbottom. Sixth goes to Will Davison. This is a fascinating finale to the Big Pond 400 at Barbagallo.
Mark Scaife's just done the fastest lap of the race, 57.56. He's 1.3 seconds behind Garth Tander. He's recovering really, Matthew, from the frustration that he told us about after qualifying, where he locked the front right brake into turn one. It's taken him all three races to get to a position where he can now apply some pressure to Garth Tander. That's how much qualifying counts when you're at the knife edge of this caper. And he's further on the charge at the moment, Scaife. His fastest sector in sector one. He's got a 25.59 against his name, so he's further improving the mark. That's looking to the east, out across the plains here at Barbagallo Raceway. We're north of Perth. Fastest split to the end of the second sector for Mark Scaife. He is hunting down Garth Tander. It's now under 1 second. It's 0.97. So Tander will need to be wary of this.
Back through the field. So car 021, Paul Radicic in 22nd position. But this is the real fight. And the laps are starting to flick down. 11 to go. Is that enough for Mark Scaife to break this winning streak of Garth Tander?
Compare the wheel work with this car to the Max Wilson car you saw early, and it won't be quite as busy. One turn in, finds the point, rolls out of the steering again. Richards and Lowndes. These guys are disputing 8th and 9th. And disputes the right word. Lowndes is almost in the grass here for turn one. Scaife's now 0.7 behind Tander. He's taking 2 or 3 tenths a lap. Again, looking at the wheel work of Scaife, shifting to 4th gear at turn 5. 5th. Little blue light indicates that he's got his headlights on. We saw him flick him on when he was behind Rick. With the wheel work by comparison to Max Wilson, nothing like the amount of input. That's something the engineers look at as a trace, a data trace, so they can actually see the steering angle in the car. Scaife's on him. Look how well that car's behaving. Turns it in once, puts it on the spot, winds the lock off. .8 is the margin.
If you're a West Australian, get ready to ride your local boy home, because he is under attack big time from Mark Scaife, who's reeling Garth Tander in. Don't forget BigPondSport.com. All your favourite sport, including V8 Supercars, live and on demand.
Compare that wheel work that we're looking at there of Mark Scaife with Max Wilson that we saw earlier, and Mark Scaife's car is behaving so nicely at the moment. Watch this. Third gear, turn 7, turns it in once. There's the apex, picks the throttle up, eases out of the steering. The car's got neutral balance. There's no sliding. He's closing the gap to Tander. It's 0.8 of a second, and they're both lapping in tandem at the moment. They've both done a 57.6 on that lap, and by comparison, Rick Kelly a 58.4.
Neil, it'd be amazing to put a split screen of the wheel work from race 2 to race 3. At the end of race 2, he came in and was quite animated, saying the car is very oversteery out of turn 6 and into turn 7 and over the hump. The boys have made some fine adjustments. I've just spoken to Rob Starr. Just some minor things. Mark's obviously a lot happier. So I said we're about half a second quicker than most of the field is right on gas hammer right now.
As for Rick Kelly, he's been doing some serious complaining in the car about a lack of grip both front and rear. It seemed that safety car period has hurt his car a little, yet done the absolute opposite for Mark Scaife, who's got some extra life out of his tyres. He has seemed to recover the car, though, and cover for any deficiency by playing with the bars inside. These drivers in a modern-day V8 supercar have a few toys at their disposal, and that stiffening the front and rear has increased his speed.
Scaife's on him, 0.45 of a second officially, and they've skipped away from the rest of the gang. Headed by Rick Kelly, Steve Johnson, Mark Winterbottom. But Scaife is on the march at the moment. And it's amazing, you know, because he was filthy with himself after qualifying for locking up under brakes into turn 1, put a mark on that tyre. And he said that we had a low 56 in the car had I not made a mistake, and he was really self-critical. It goes to show how long you have to work to recover your ground if you give away even one row on this grid. It's now race 3. It's taken 2.5 races or more to get into a position where he can now have a battle with Garth Tander.
He's been looking and working so hard. Mark Scaife, a 5-time series champion, is trying to deny Garth Tander the clean sweep.
If you watch carefully, you'll notice that Tander's a little weak down at turn 6 by comparison to Scaife. This is 1. Very strong under brakes. The margin now 0.56 of a second. They wander through these S's, and when they wander over the back, it's on the run carrying brakes down into the apex of turn 6, where Tander just seems a little vulnerable. And Scaife's got great speed down there. This is exit of turn 4. Now, this is the bit that I've been talking about. Maybe the bump control just here, or the speed that Mark can carry on the way into the corner is a bit better than Garth. It's only marginal, but it's just enough.
240, 250 kilometres down the back straight. Hard on the brakes for turn 7. Look at the force. He's got to push that Holden Racing Team Fiat Commodore around.
Splits back to 0.46 of a second. He took a 10th on that lap. There's the margin. 5.8 seconds back to Rick Kelly. In fact, it's just opened up now to 6.6.
Stephen Johnson, Mark Winterbottom, Will Davison and Todd Kelly make up the top 7. There's Lee Holdsworth. He's in position 11. John Bowers made a move right up to 14. The Zinger replay. Maximum effort by Jamie Whincup. And on board, you can see the angle that the car ends up in. Whack, down she goes.
You may have picked in the interviews after race 2 that Rick Kelly indicated that Garth Tander really wasn't working as hard as he needed to this weekend. I can tell you what, he certainly is now down in Garth's camp. He's up the ante, but he still does have a little bit of speed up his sleeve, they seem to think. Remember, he does have a good tyre bank. He revealed that to us a little earlier on. Will it last the distance?
0.45 the margin now, so Scaife took a couple of hundredths out of him on that lap. Very close now at turn 1 as we look back at Mark working. I'm really staggered by the minimal amount of work that he's got to put into the steering wheel. Car condition at this end of the race is very good. Tander's will be similar. There's not much in their lap speed. Last time through, a 57.95 for Garth as we look at Leanne, his wife, and a 57.94 for Mark Scaife. Eric Pender there, Rick Kelly's engineer. So 1/100th of a second better for Scaife on that lap. It's knife edge.
They know it in pit lane too. They can feel the pressure down there in pit lane. I don't think Leanne Tander's got any fingernails left. And Garth Tander will be wearing all the skin off his hands the way he's had to fight and muscle this car around. And defend his position from a fast closing Mark Scaife.
See how both the boys are using every last millimetre of the track width to align themselves into the final corner, even using the concrete verge. 0.45 is still the margin. The lap speed then, 57.73 for Garth, 57.73 for Mark. 7.7 seconds back to Rick Kelly.
He'll turn 30 at the end of the week, and he is looking to put the rubber stamp on this weekend that says perfect so far. He knew, though, even though he had the car speed, even though he had the form, that he would always get a fight, and there was the little error.
That was a mistake. Garth was up high then. He carried brake into 6, and with a little too much brake pressure, too much understeer in the car, the nose went away, and he just lost a fraction.
What does that mean down at turn 7? No movement expected on that one. 2 laps to go.
2 laps, GT, 2 laps.
Fastest lap of the race, keep in mind, is a 57.73, and the boys just did 57.8s apiece. They're only half a second away from their peak lap speed. Rob Starr on the left, David Swenson there with the radio on the right. The management of this team. Robbie doesn't like the close-up. And this is an enthralling battle. Haven't they dropped the rest off? 8.3 seconds back to Rick Kelly. And the first of the forwards is Stephen Johnson, then Mark Winterbottom. And that's very, very encouraging for Dick Johnson, Jim Beam Racing, because those guys have seen the tide go a long way out in the recent past. So much relief for those guys to be competitive, and we'll see more of them in the coming rounds in the series.
Well, Leanne Tander is certainly showing some signs of stress at the moment. She said, for Garth this weekend, it's been a hard one being a local boy. He's been pushed and pulled to every media event under the sun and hasn't had 1 second to think about the job at hand or his car. It's not showing, though, but she said he is certainly working like he's never worked before. He does not want to give this away, even though if he does finish second, he still wins the round.
0.53 of a second between Tander and Scaife. Garth managed to sneak 1/10 then. 57.75 that lap speed. Scaife with a 57.83. Nothing in it. 3/4 of a lap to run. Tander might have enough margin, provided there are no mistakes down here into turn 6, and he's acutely aware of it.
It's been going and going and going for so long, this battle. He knows that he's got one of the best in the business chasing him down. That man there, Mark Scaife, who's put up an awesome fight, but not enough to stop the VE Commodore in a victory that is close to the heart for Garth Tander.
3 from 3.
That is an all-the-way winner.
Thanks, boys.
In
awesome.
the West.
Absolutely awesome. Mega.
Rick Kelly and Stephen Johnson battle it out for 3rd and 4th. Kelly gets that one. Mark Winterbottom in 5th. Will Davison 6th. Todd Kelly in 7th. And Craig Lowndes in 8th. A great performance. A clean sweep by the West Australian. And a top-class effort from the Holden Racing team. And Mark Scaife, who pulls up now alongside Garth Tander. Thumbs up. He's a good sport, and I think he recognises that he's been out-duelled in this one by a man who had superior pace and also a lot of fight all the way to the end of 50 laps. So this is how they finished provisionally in the Big Pond 400 Race 3. Garth Tander puts car number 16 in position number 1 for 3 straight across the weekend. Scaife, after 2/3, gets a 2nd, and Rick Kelly, after 2 seconds, gets a 3rd. Johnson, the leading forward there, in 4th position from Winterbottom Davison. Todd Kelly, Craig Lowndes in 8th position. Stephen Richards up to 9th, and Russell Ingall posts a top 10 performance as well. There he is, the hometown hero. Never before has it felt so right for Garth Tander in front of his crowd here at Barbagallo Raceway. He's been coming here for more than a decade, and this is the sweetest of victories for the lanky West Australian as he gets out of the car and salutes a victory that really is made for home. Our winner of round 2 of the V8 Supercar Championship, Gartander on 7th.